Hi Facebook, happy Thursday. Last week when I did this video, we were just about to embark on our marathon special session, and now I am coming to you. As you know, the House passed all 4 bills that we had in front of us, and now the Senate has done the same, and they are all on their way to the governor. And so I read a particular something this morning that made me really want to reflect on what's happened over the course of the last week and where we are in this moment. And that was John Lewis's final words, which were in the New York Times this morning. And they're very moving. I recommend them to anyone. But there was a quote in there that said, democracy is not a state, it is an act, that I thought was particularly relevant to talk about right now. When, at a time when we're in a pandemic, where tempers are, we're all a little worn thin by pressures and losses that we are experiencing in this moment, which has also driven us inside, where we're more dependent than usual on social media, which has a tendency to just feed us opinions that we agree with and drive us further, polarize us, separate us further, and drive us into our corners. That if we sit back passively and just wait for things to come to us and then give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down, maybe by looking at the talking points of someone else or whatever social media is telling us, we don't arrive at progress. That is not how it works. It is progress, and I believe actual being a moderate is active and physical. It requires physically creating space in that middle ground by continual conversations with people, by listening to people who are afraid and allaying those fears and explaining things to people and taking the time to understand where they come from, seeking out people who disagree with you. I think that is how we really make progress, and I think a lot of what we did in the last week is symbolic of that. I also want to note that one sort of contrary moment on this, in the criticism of social media, that I posted a very long piece on social media about the police accountability vote in particular, much longer than anything I usually post on social media, and much longer than anything anyone would advise me to post on social media. All the truly knowledgeable people say don't ever post anything that long. It has been seen now by almost 22,000 people. So I think there is a hunger, maybe especially in this moment, for people to not just go to their corners and get polarized, but to try to understand both sides of a situation, and to meet people and to understand that sometimes the messages you're going to hear are hard and painful and hurtful, and that's okay, and we can push through, and it'll get us to a better place. Another sort of example of that, we are in the moment where we're all kind of trying to figure out how our kids are going to go back to school, because we know, I was on a call this morning where, I heard again that 25 to 30+% of kids in our schools completely tuned out this spring, never logged in, didn't make any progress, were not educated in any measurable way. And that is a tragedy and a loss, and something that we have to address with urgency, which means that for a lot of kids, we do have to find a way to get them back to school. But sometimes the question is, and particularly parents have been asked this question, are you going to send your kids back to school, or are you going to keep them home? When the answer really for most people is yes, if. I want to send my kids back to school. I understand that it's better for them. I understand that it's, makes it certainly possible for parents to actually return to work in a meaningful way. But you need to be assured that also the state and schools are going to provide the resources and the procedures to make that possible, to make it safe to educate our kids while also protecting them. And I, this drive to sort of make a decision early on when we don't know what the particulars are, I think is sometimes hard for people. And so we really have to both things are true. We must provide the schools with the resources in order to open appropriately, and we have to open appropriately. For a lot of kids, that social and emotional learning that they get only in person is critical. So we have work to do there. I also wanted to note there was, I hope many of you have seen a map that has sort of been making the rounds on social media that came from, I think, the CDC, but essentially Connecticut was the only green state on that map. We were the only state in the country for which the public health trends on COVID-19 were positive, and that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we are keeping things under control. That, of course, at the same time, every week, including tomorrow's newsletter, will have another list of states who have been added to the quarantine list. So, we are doing well, but it's because we are fighting for our space and protecting our citizens. And I have had so many calls in the last week that this, again, it's not a choice between protecting, reviving the economy or protecting public health. We have to do both. And in fact, protecting public health is the best thing we can do for the economy. And I think we're seeing an example of that right now, because that little green state on that map is actually a marketing brochure for Connecticut. And we are seeing, trends, people moving to Connecticut. There's a new business site that the governor has set up called businessct.gov, which is a one-stop shop for entrepreneurs who are looking to set up business, to help them cut through the red tape in Connecticut and get their business started. And the phone is ringing off the hook. There are actually a lot of people who are starting businesses in Connecticut. And I think the fact that we have really been serious about protecting public health and our citizens is a really important part of that. So these things, again, are not two opposing concerns. We have to bring them both together. Couple of other, a thing that's been on a lot of people's minds is you're seeing your utility bill skyrocketing, and a lot of questions about that, and we need a lot of answers from Eversource as to, essentially a whole group of us have signed on to ask to make sure that Eversource not undertake the rate increase, which they are doing right now. It was one thing to have considered that a year ago when things were very different. It is very different to be doing that in the midst of a pandemic. So I know that there will be hearings held on that, and I will keep you informed about what's going on there. And then I just wanted to, I am doing another Facebook Live town hall next Wednesday night at 7 p.m., this time with Dr. Ulysses Wu, who is an infectious disease specialist with Hartford Hospital and also a delightful person. And looking forward to having that conversation and answering any questions that you might have, and a lot of the ones that I have been gathering up. So looking forward to that, and I wish you all a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.